at 7 p.m. First item of business is approval of the meeting minutes. Hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at them. Any questions, comments, motion?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ.
Second, Susie.
Thank you, Susie. If we get a roll call, please. Josh?
Nate,
Aye.
Leah. Leah, sorry, you unmuted yourself, but I just couldn't hear you.
Aye.
Thank you. Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you. Okay, our first, next order of business are public comments. If we do have a public comment, I ask that you state your name and your street address. Do we have any public comments at this moment? Going twice, public comments. Okay, everybody should have received the email from Mr. Hunt that he sent to me earlier. So we're entering that as part of the public comments. Obviously, we'll get onto discussion of that later on. So I just asked the secretary if you can make sure that those comments are, attached with this meeting as public comments, as part of the public record.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to new business. The first thing I would ask, because we do have Shelley McCauley with us, who is the town assessor. And I would entertain a motion, since she is here waiting to speak with us, to take FY 22-025 out of order.
Motion?
So, second, Julie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Nate,
All right,
Julie,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
all right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Shelley, for being with us this evening. Would you like to, I know that you joined us last year too, and it was very informative, so I'm very thankful that you're here with us. Do you want to start and kind of we do have some new members, Shelley.
Sure.
If you want to, give us a background and.
So I apologize. They gave me a new laptop and for some reason my camera is not working. It's working, but it's like, can you see my hand? I can't figure it out. I apologize.
Brad
Wait a
will
second.
fix that.
Wait a second. Is that your hand?
Just sit on the floor, Shelley.
I'm sorry about that. So, is that what it is? Because I was trying to, I don't know. I can't get in there.
It's
So-
the camera above your keyboard.
Oh, it's above here?
Yeah, maybe if you
Oh,
tilt
so
your
how do
screen
you
towards
make it go the other way?
You have to go in your video settings.
Okay. So
I
we're gonna
forget that.
we're gonna pass on that, right, Shelley?
Okay, so as you said, I'm Shelley McCauley. I'm the chief assessor for the town. I'm not sure if I know all these, but I do know some. I presented some material to you guys through the email on the classification presentation and the selection of a minimum residential factor for this coming year, which explains in great detail the tax rate options available under the property tax classification and the adoption of the residential factor. For tonight, I will only be discussing the residential factor side of it. So as noted, the town council must decide the percentages of the tax levy that each class of real property and personal property will bear each year. To do so, a residential factor is adopted. The residential factor governs how much the residential and open space classes property tax burden may decrease, and consequently how much the commercial, industrial, personal property classes property tax burden may increase. The adopted factor cannot be less than the minimum residential factor calculated by the DOR. The MRF for this fiscal year is 92.6624%, and it represents the maximum shift allowed in the tax levy for the year, and it establishes the parameters for local decision-making. I have provided a calculation options table on page 10 in the packet, which represents the shift range from 1 to 1.5, which is the maximum, in increments of 5% to illustrate the respective share of the tax burden and the anticipated tax rates for each class. Notice when there is a shift in the percentage of total taxable value between the property classes, residential and commercial, industrial, personal property, it affects the total amount of taxes paid by each class. The higher the percentage of total taxable value for a property class, the higher the amount of taxes paid by that class. Conversely, the lower the percentage of total taxable value for a class of property, the lower the amount of taxes paid by that class. It is important to also note that the council is effectively choosing the SIP shift factor. Although they are choosing the SIP shift factor, it is technically selecting the residential factor. So if a factor of 1 was adopted, the tax rate would be the same for all classes. The rate is determined by dividing the tax levy by the total value of all taxable property in Bridgewater and then multiplying that by 1,000. So for this year, fiscal 2022, it is estimated to be $14.32. The levy of $53,604,043 divided by the taxable value of the town, which is $3,742,015,490, which again makes an estimated tax rate of $14.32. So from that, I will take any questions that you may have.
And these questions can be general in nature. They don't have to be specific. It can be, a little further explanation because some of you are new members. So some of the terminology may be very, very new to you. Consider this both educational and an opportunity to understand further what Shelley has presented.
Well, first, I hope everyone got a chance to read the presentation because I tried to give as much detail as I could so that you could make a informed decision.
And just to be clear right now, the recommended factor of 1 means that our residential and our commercial tax rates stay the same.
Will be the same.
Yep, will be
this
the
year.
same. Yep.
Yep.
Tony, do we know what percentage of our, or maybe Shelley knows this too, what percentage of our tax revenue comes from the residential side and which from the commercial side? How much from the commercial side?
How much do we get from each side of?
Well, as a percentage, if you don't know the exact numbers, but a ballpark.
I don't, but I could figure it out for you if you needed me to.
All right.
Shelley, would that be on the recap?
Yes, I could, if you can.
I'm gonna pull it up right
Oh,
now.
you got it?
Yeah, tell me what page.
Check the LA. No, check.
Page 1?
No, yeah, page 1 of the recap.
Thank you.
Would you like me to share it on the screen for those that can't access it right now?
Do you have it?
Do you have
Yeah.
it, Josh?
If you can share it on the screen, that would be good.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
I
give me
can
just a
tell
moment.
you right off the bat, 46,728,000 comes from residential.
And what was the total?
Shelley?
I'm no good at math and percentages though.
Oh, we can wait till Josh gets it there. It's just filling time.
Hold on one
Or I
second.
can share. I have it open.
The total tax levy is $53,604,043. $46,728,221 comes from the residential. Hold on, someone just kicked me out of my screen. Someone just kicked me out of the screen.
So hopefully somebody's better at numbers than I am can tell me.
It's not on that page. We'd actually have to go to the recap. Hold on one second.
It sounds like it's awful lopsided in the favor of residential still though.
And I can do the math for you if you want to give you perspective. Just give me 1 second. We'll be glad to
In
do it.
favor or we pay more is what you mean. I don't know if that's
No,
favorable.
it's not what you pay more. It's just the value of your town is made up of 87% residential.
Correct.
And if 87% of the value of the town, that means 87% of your tax comes from
Residential.
residential.
Right, because I was gonna say 80% without my calculator and not having the numbers in front of me. but-
6.4% comes from commercial, 3.5% comes from industrial. Personal property is 2.87, and I'm rounding. So you can see that if 87% comes from residential, and then personal property is roughly 3%. So 90% comes from there and 10% comes from commercial and industrial.
Okay,
Rough
thank you.
numbers.
Yeah, it's all in the pamphlet. I think I put it in there.
Is in the actual document.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
if
it's
I
on
put it in
page
there.
10, the calculation
10?
options. It shows percentages of
Correct.
There you
Yep.
go.
what each
there it is.
area
But each one-
comprises.
At intervals of 5. Yes, it is on
Okay.
that page.
Do you know, Shelley, when the last time it wasn't factor one? Like, how long has it been
It's
equal?
always been, we've never had a split tax rate in Bridgewater.
Okay, thank you.
The town managers, the driving force in that is that the town has a lopsided equation, right? 87% of value comes from residential. The town has tried to, with certain initiatives, one being Elm Street, to attract commercial. The proximity to 24 and 495 not being what a West Bridgewater is, makes it more difficult, and we don't have as much land in proximity to those major locations, which would attract more commercial and industrial property. So it has a nature to do with the properties in town that are in fact zoned residential, the properties areas that are zoned commercial and industrial, and the proximity to major access ways. You know, we're different than Rainham, we're different than West Bridgewater, and it has to do with geographics in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they have a lot more commercial base.
Yep.
In those 2 towns.
So when you're
No question.
saying, if you were to split the tax rate, you would be putting and really do it under the law, you would be making a huge shift to our already small commercial population. And we feel that would be detrimental to attracting, albeit a nominal, let's see if I phrase this correctly, albeit a very narrow opportunity for attracting commercial developers. It would make it even more restrictive.
Right, I was just trying to put it on the record for the public. I kind of already knew the answer.
Oh, okay, well, that's good. And then I further answered it for the public.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? I actually have 2 questions. And this is very helpful to understand sort of the breakdown between residential, commercial, personal property. And what was the 4th? Independent?
Industrial?
Yes,
And industrial. With respect to commercial, are the few commercial properties that we have, are they getting tax break?
No.
Okay, so all right, thank you for
Nope.
answering that. And then the second question that I have is, if I heard correctly, that the fiscal year that's coming up, the residential taxes will be based on classification. How will the town determine the classification and how someone is put into certain brackets to determine their tax rate?
Well, to the point Shelley made, a factor of 1 means the tax rate would be the same. I think you're also asking, how does one get zoned as a residential? What defines residential versus commercial and industrial? Did I get that right?
No.
Okay,
I
great.
guess I'm trying to understand it, and maybe I heard the question, or maybe I heard Shelley wrong, and please correct me if I did. I just heard a classification. How will, with the word classification with respect to the tax rate, does that impact residential homes, and how will those in residential properties be considered or be placed in different classification?
Rick,
I
have a feeling when Tony was mentioned classifications, he actually was talking about whether you're classified residential, commercial, industrial.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
so it's not necessarily based on, for example, so-and-so family household makes X amount of dollars. They
No,
live,
No.
they live in the
Correct.
size of the home.
Yeah,
Okay.
no.
No.
All right.
If you're
Understood.
residential, you're residential. Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
understood.
Thank you for that, Susie.
Thank you, Susie.
welcome.
Thank you.
No problem.
Kind of back to Tony's point too, talking to developers, in town here. One of the reasons that they do like to move here is our tax rate is attractive since we don't have a split rate. And so, it's really a case we want to attract more business. So maybe someday we could talk about it. We need to be competitive. And the nice thing about commercial, a lot of those is that they bring business, they bring business to town businesses too, to local businesses. Does anybody else have any questions, comments?
Could we, that document that shows the breakdown, is that shared on the, what was sent out? I'm on page 10 and I'm not seeing it. Maybe my eyes are just getting bad.
The way I broke it down, the 30,
Yes.
80,
Yes.
Rig,
Yes.
that was on a different attachment that Josh had sent out yesterday from our packet.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Nate, I did have one quick question. I just wanted to make sure I heard it correct. Because of the percentage of properties in town versus commercial properties in town, having a split tax rate would actually be detrimental as opposed to actually being beneficial. Is that correct, Tony?
Well, if you're trying to track commercial and you only have a small valuation in that group relevant to your total valuation, and you compare yourself to other communities, the thought process is just that we don't want to put another obstacle in the way of commercial properties developing in the town of Bridgewater. And that's been typically the answer, Shelley. Am I consistent 3 years?
So MJ, I was going to give you an example. So if the town decided to do a 10% shift, the average taxpayer would pay $96 less a year, but the average commercial taxpayer would pay $1,063 more. So
There you
that kind
go.
of puts it in perspective for you.
That's great.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
So I have a question, like the neighboring towns, how do they approach this? Do they do the same thing?
I did also include that in the packet, and I used 5 different towns: East Bridgewater, Halifax, Middleborough, Rainham, and West Bridgewater. The 3 that split.
Shelley, what page is that on?
Page 12.
Exhibit B, that's the one you're talking about.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
say that again.
Yeah, I think I see like Exhibit B, right? Is that the one you're talking about?
Exhibit B,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. I do see it. Yep. Excellent.
That was last year's, and then Exhibit C, page 13 is this year. The only town that hasn't set a tax rate besides us is Rainham. But like I said, so Middleborough, Rainham, and West Bridgewater, they all shift. And you can notice that they all have a lot more a lot more commercial than we do. East Bridgewater and Halifax do not shift the tax burden. That might be helpful.
But I think that last point that Shelley made is really, if we were to shift 10%, you'd save the average taxpayer, $96 a year, and then you would create a considerable shift in the burden on the commercial. And we're still in the mode of trying to attract commercial talent to this, commercial development to this town.
Right, and so like also I wrote on page 18, I had Exhibit F. I had given you usually what I believe most towns consider for their economic and political issues, and there's a bunch of them on there that you could look at.
No, the chart's very helpful. That's exactly what my first question was, Shelley. Thank you.
Mhm.
And Tony, I think you got in the recap, right? What I was trying to say is, in order to keep attracting business, and I think that we're doing a pretty good job actually of attracting business to town here compared to the past.
One of the big things that you guys supported, and some members weren't here when we went through this, Shelley was been very involved in that, was the rebuilding, restructuring of Elm Street, which is in the west part of the town, was significant. That was like a $7 million project. And we were able to get 3.4 million of grant funds from the state. So the town only had to pay for a portion of that. I won't get into how we paid that, but it was even a progressive way of paying for that. And we have had some pretty substantial new growth in that area, Shelley, with developers coming in, because now they have access in a roadway that can handle the traffic that's necessary for them to operate. How big was that one building how many square feet was that one building that came in as a result
Oh,
of this?
yeah, that was huge. That was,
Was
10,
it 300,000?
400, I think, almost.
Almost 400,000 square feet.
Yeah,
it's
we got
massive.
about 300,000 just in that district alone in new growth this year.
Nice. Yeah, that building is massive down there.
So if
We
you
al- we
think of
also
our
have the-
new,
The web
you think-
building down there too.
if you think of our new growth for this year was 1.2 million roughly, correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, is it 1.2 or 1.5? Numbers are not.
1.6,
Okay,
and so last year was 855. So we actually got 772,000 plus in new growth more than last year.
Yeah, and a large contributing factor was the fact that we developed that road and attracted commercial. And when others come to the town manager, and it's come to them recently, and they've said, well, would you be willing to do some other tax incentive, like a TIF, which is an incentive where you would reduce some taxes? We go, look at our rate. We don't have a split rate. And in fact, you're getting a great tax rate for your commercial property. Compare it to other towns that are surrounding who have, if you go back to Shelley's exhibit, you can see what their tax rate is per thousand, which is considerably for commercial, which is considerably higher. So right now we're using that as a tool when particular companies are asking questions about and/or thinking about developing further there on Elm Street.
Yeah, and of the three towns on my example that don't split and have a single tax rate, we're actually the lowest tax bill. The residential side is the lowest tax bill of all of them, of East Bridgewater and Halifax.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
The new growth, is any of that related to COVID or the pandemic or anything? Or do you think it's strictly the Elm Street and the business draw?
Plus, we had a
You know.
lot of residential. We had 2 big subdivisions go in,
Thank you.
so that we had quite a bit of new growth coming from the residential side also.
And Shelley doesn't know this, but she's going to come into our budget meeting and she's going to explain how she calculates new growth and what drives new growth. And in fact, we will give you a breakdown of what this year's new growth was by those categories. Because we
Thank
want
you.
to deepen the understanding of the connection between what new growth does, because that's significant to our ability to support our operating budgets.
That would be fantastic to have that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I
You don't
do.
mind, you don't mind, Shelley, do you?
No, I have it right now if you need it, but no, I don't mind at all.
Oh, you have it right now so they could understand last year's? I don't know if this group would like to hear that.
And new growth, I can break it down. The residential this year, we had almost $530,000 more in residential. We had 20,000 more in commercial, 281,000 more industrial, 7,000 in personal property, for a total of 772,000 more.
So
than-
that's just the addition this year versus like prior year.
Right.
Right.
Can you help us understand, prior to did we lose because of the pandemic and COVID though?
Oh,
So,
we didn't lose anything.
okay,
New growth is anything that we didn't have on the tax rolls the year before. So that includes any alterations, any additions, any new dwellings, any new businesses.
oh, no,
and,
no, I
oh.
understand. Sorry, I understand that. I guess what I'm saying, taking into account any loss of businesses closing, residential folks moving away. Do you get what I mean?
No, actually, what we saw was things being built out, projects being finished,
Crazy.
homes being built.
Yeah,
There
okay.
weren't any businesses that closed because of COVID?
But that's not gonna
There
affect your
may
new
have been, but
growth.
nothing.
That would affect your new growth. I'm just saying that in the context of new growth.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
It looks like there was about 50 or so new parcels from 2020 to 2021. And there
Well,
was
which class?
probably about 15,000 increase in the average value. So
Where are you seeing
I don't
that?
know. That's on page 20 of the Exhibit H, and it shows kind of like the values and the value changes from 2000 to 2022.
That's a great
Right,
document.
so the average tax bill, the average value change was 10.75%.
Yeah, so if you look at that, you can compare one year to the prior, and like Chris just said, it shows you what's changed. And then you can look at that 87.2%, which says that's your residential.
Which is exactly what it was last year, by the way.
Yep. There was a lot of residential developments going on, plus some, would you say, Shelley?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm not sure that I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm following this. If I'm looking at this chart on page 20 and just looking at, so it's the number of parcels, like that would be in 2020, we had 5,516, 2022, 5,634.
Or we say, are you looking at exhibit? What exhibit do you have? in front
I'm
of you?
looking at exhibit H. I don't know if that's the one that,
No, they were talking about exhibit G, is that correct? Which one were you talking about, Chris?
It was Exhibit H that I was talking about, that I was looking at, that showed the tax bill and the
Breakdown.
increase in parcels, the overall breakdown.
I guess my point was, if I'm reading this right, and I'm not sure if I am, it just looks like we added about 100 parcels when like just near me, I know that there's been a lot more than 100 new homes that have been built.
No, that is how many residential 101s are in the class is 5,634.
No, those
So
are how
that
many,
is all the new homes that were built from 20 to 21, and then you can see it. So you're saying that, no, that is exactly how many new homes were in the town.
So there's 5,634 new homes in 2022.
No, not new homes, that's how many are in the town. If you want to say how many, you'd have to subtract 5,634 minus 5,563.
And
Anyone have a
so-
calculator?
well, that's just ballpark it and say it's 100. And I'm telling you, there's more than 100 new homes just in my area.
Kathleen, yeah, we're talking about timing. This
Yeah,
data,
yeah.
can you give the context, Shelley, of this time period that this is reflective of?
Yeah, it's always as of January 1 of each given
2000
year.
of what, 2000 what?
But this year is 2021.
Mhm.
So from January 1st, 2021 to January 1st, 2000 to January 1st, 2021, that is how many single family homes were built.
So it started from 12/31/20 to January 1/21.
To December 31st. Yep. Same thing. Yeah.
Now, some may be still in the process of being built. I'm assuming that's once these new houses have occupancy permits, right?
Yes. Yep.
Because
Once it
pri-
actually
because-
cha-
Because prior to that, they're just still land parcels.
Correct.
So it is it could be a timing thing too. I know exactly what you're saying, Kathleen. It looks like there's a heck of a lot more than 100. I'm sure there is, but it could be a timing thing. We may see some of those houses on the next one, you know?
So let me rephrase this. Anything that was built from January 1 of this year that just happened, all the way through December 31 at the end of this year, will end up showing as new value on the FY 23 recap. She will be coming back and doing a presentation on that, 23, at the end of 22, 420. She will come back next year and do this all over again for 20.
Oh, okay, so we may see a more significant jump up in that report then, is that what
Yeah,
you're?
you're about a year lag.
So anything that you see anything that was built after 1/1,
Right.
2021 is going to be the next year. So you could have, in the last
Which
11
is-
months, you could have
Which is fiscal year 23.
right. So you could have saw that many houses being built, but they're not accounted for right now. They're still
That's-
considered land.
Right, that's good because we'll need that in 2023
year.
when we do our budget.
Exactly.
Does
And
that
I
help
don't
at
know,
all?
maybe
Kathleen?
a few of them may have switched. They may have had a single family and made it into a two family. I don't think so, but that could have been one or two in there. I'm not really sure about that, but
No, it's a good question.
I'm just ballparking and I'm sorry, it doesn't, maybe I'm just missing the boat here, but if I just look at, and I just did some quick math, 5, 4, 4, 7. If I start from 2019 and look at the difference between 2019 and 2019 and 2022. So it says there's 187 houses built, new houses. I know there's more than 187 new houses.
well, the subdivision on Oldfield, I think is only 91 lots and they're not even built out yet. I don't believe. We don't have them all assessed. 187 is a lot of new homes to be built.
So,
Yeah.
What streets are you thinking that?
well, I'm thinking of Oldfield and all the ones, I can't think of the estates, the one that by the Taunton,
Oh, Pratt Town, we have Pratt
Bridgewater
Town.
Reserve, right?
yeah, Bridgewater Preserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of houses. I mean, that's easily 200 houses right there.
Have
No,
they
I-
taken
I think-
occup-
There may be 200 lots altogether, but the houses, no. So I can give you a breakdown of everything. I'm not right this second, but I can get it to you if you want so that you feel,
No, I'm just trying to understand, I'm just trying to like understand all of this and it's just and kind of compare it to what I see. And that's where I'm kind of having,
I thought-
I'm trying to reconcile everything and it doesn't, I'm having
Are all
trouble with
those,
that.
in those houses in your mind's eye, have they all taken occupancy?
Yeah, I ride my bike in there a lot and there's
So
a
we-
couple that are still being developed, but I mean, it's just house after house after house.
I thought the preserve was
they
only
have to be,
94 parcels.
okay, I'm not sure. I knew it was in the 90s. So that's
Yeah.
the whole subdivision that
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah.
That subdivision's been under construction for a few years, so as the houses are completed, get their occupancy permits, and then are then added to the tax rolls, that's when correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, that's when they actually count as an official parcel as a household for purposes of taxation. Until such time as they're either completed being subdivided off of a main parcel, they don't become a new house, they don't become a parcel for taxation purposes. Now, because.
Not
Bridgewater
quite.
Preserve-
Once a foundation's up, it becomes a house. So
Right. But
So,
since that's been under
Shelley?
construction for a few years, I mean, like she said, there are a few parcels that are still under construction, but the houses that have been under construction under Bridgewater Preserve for the last few years, those have been adding to those figures over the last few years. So yes, there's probably up to 100 homes over there, however many parcels there are, but the ones that will be finished probably will just be the 2, 3, 4, or 5 of them that are being added now. But the other 94 are already on the tax rolls as parcels, as part of that 5,000 house figure. Correct?
So to that point, maybe you can provide some additional information. Kathleen just mentioned one development, maybe there's some other ones, and Shelley can provide some further information. I don't think we'll reconcile that in this discussion.
No, and like I said, I have a breakdown from this year to last year. Condominiums, we have 8 additional this year. Miscellaneous residential is the same. 2 families, we lost 3 of them, so they probably either became condos or something else. 3 families, we gained 1. Okay, here's a good, so the vacant accessory land, we had 898. This year we have 810. So that means 88 of those lots became either houses or something else. So I can show you a breakdown if you want of every parcel from last year to this year. So industrial, we lost 6 this year. So that they could have went from an industrial code to a commercial code. Would that
Okay.
be helpful to?
All right, I think that, obviously you have the details, Shelley. So we do appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it really is a timing issue at the end of the day, and I certainly agree with Kathleen's perception. It just seems like single families are popping up everywhere around here.
Oh, they are. And we, like I said, we got a lot of new growth from the residential class, a lot.
All right, but it was a good question. It helped to understand the process better. So thank you,
You're
Kathleen.
welcome.
All right, does anybody else have any questions, comments?
So I'm sorry, I entered a little late and I don't know if this was already addressed before I entered, but so I had seen, so the tax rate for, I'm trying to get what page it was on.
What town? Us?
Yeah, Bridgewater. I was comparing the 2021 to the 2022.
Okay, so it was 1448 last year. It's 1432 this year. And if you take the average bill from last year to the average bill from this year, it's going up $570.
And so that's my question. So did you already talk about that before I got on? Like, how do we get to that, determine that, what that amount should be?
Because
2022,
how do we determine the tax rate?
yeah.
You take the levy from the town and you divide it by the value of the town.
You back into the tax rate,
Yep.
Kathy.
Okay,
Because last year, under Proposition 2.5, the town has set the policy many years back. We will spend up to the levy capacity, okay? So what that means is if this year it was $30 million this year, a year, the next year you're gonna have your 2.5% on top of that. And then you're gonna add the new growth, which is properties that weren't on or part of your tax base in the prior year. That becomes your new base. So every year, the levy is just a calculation of prior year's total levy limit. The
Yeah, so-
valuations change based on market conditions and on the number of parcels that are in the various categories.
right. No, yeah, I get that. Okay,
So
All right,
then you just back into the tax rate.
yeah. Okay, thanks.
I didn't mean to be condescending, hopefully.
Oh, no, you weren't. No, I just didn't. If everyone knew that, I didn't want to belabor the point.
No, I guess one other comment is the reason it's going up over $500. It's being driven by a debt service, a large part of that increase. Because we added, what was the school debt added this year for the Mitchell School, Shelley?
It was 2.5, so I figured it out and that added 69 cents to the tax rate. So, I do have a breakdown of that. Hold on one second.
Because then you can see, oh, it went up $500 and 69 cents per thousand had to do with debt service that wasn't on the books last year. Because the town decided to vote a debt exclusion for that project.
Right, and I'm trying to find the page that I have the actual numbers for.
What's the average tax bill you said, Shelley?
For this year, 6553.
And it's 14 what?
32.
And 69 cents of that is,
I have it on my sheet and I can't find my sheet right now. I knew that question was gonna come up. All right.
yeah, this is the only part I wanted to make sure that the group understood.
Oh, here it is. I got it. So $316 were contributed to the new Mitchell School. And extra. So the tax bill, had we not had the Mitchell School debt included, the average bill would have been $6,237. And so 69 cents added to that, 316 equals the 6,553. Does that make sense to you?
So I just
Yeah.
wanted the group to understand, you know, it went up by 500 and something dollars. And a good chunk of that had to do with the Mitchell School, because debt exclusion says, not only did you get your 2.5%, but the debt cost of that is added to your levy limit, and therefore it brings up your tax rate.
That's helpful. That's, it helps to
so
understand how the whole thing comes together.
$316 were directly contributed to the new Mitchell School for an average bill. And the 254 is from everything else that we raised, that we needed to, for the budget.
Great. Hey, thank you. Some good questions, good answers, clarification. I like it. Do we have anything else? We've given Shelley a good grill in here.
Thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That was great.
Very detailed. Thank you, Shelley. Appreciate
You're
your time.
welcome. I'm sure I'll be seeing you again.
Hopefully we'll be able to see you on camera next time.
I know.
Yeah, you
I
see, it looks
apologize
great
again.
though.
I apologize again, MJ.
Hey,
We-
yeah, wave,
No,
wave,
it's fine.
we
It's fine.
enjoyed your
See you,
hands.
MJ.
wave goodbye, Shelley, will you?
Yeah. Bye-bye, thank
Show
you.
show us your hand modeling skills.
Enjoy the meeting.
All right, so at this point, what would we like to do, committee? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ.
Second, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Wait,
Josh?
wait, wait. So,
Oh.
sorry, I have a question. Can I,
Uh-oh. Yeah, what's up?
are we supposed to react to anything about that citizen's comment from Mr. Hunt and,
We're gonna get to that,
Discussing?
Susie.
I-
oh,
I
okay,
don't-
sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that
gotcha.
has
We're
nothing to
closing
do with
out
this.
portion.
Yeah.
It's not related to this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. We're just closing out this portion. Thanks.
And I'm sorry, what exactly is what are we approving? What is,
What that was, recommendation that was sent
Order
to us to keep
FY
the tax-
22-025, the fiscal year 22 classification tax allocation adoption of residential factor.
so is it that that it stays at 1? Is that
Yeah,
what we're,
That's what we're recommending.
Okay.
yes.
Right.
okay, good, okay.
Okay, so we have our first and our seconds. Josh,
Nate,
aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. That was some good discussion that we just had. Our next item is Resolution FY 22-044. And then kind of tied in with it is also the next order. What I'd like to do, because we did try to get Mr. Wood to join this meeting with us this evening, so we could discuss his resolution in more detail. Unfortunately, he was unable to do that. He had a conflict this evening. And what I'm recommending is maybe, since these two are hand in hand, is that we continue these two items to our December 15th meeting, and that we hope we can have Ms. Council Wood also join us there. Because I also, any thoughts on that?
I think in due deference to Counselor Wood, it would be best that we defer to that time, just because we were looking forward to hearing his input tonight, and unfortunately, he's unable to join us. So I think due deference to the counselor, we should defer it until he can meet with us, hopefully on the 15th.
I agree.
Okay, thank you. You know, also what we'll do is we continue, like I said, the 22-024 too, since they are kind of hand in hand a little bit, or they're about the same subject. We have any other thoughts on that? That we seem to have agreement on that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Anybody else?
I agree as well.
Okay, so we're gonna do that, Josh.
Got it. Thanks.
We're gonna continue that resolution in that order to our next meeting on the 15th. And if we can also obviously get a invitation out to Councilor Wood and let him know.
Definitely.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. All right, so let's move on to our next order of business, which is FY 22-026, BAA collective bargaining contract ratification. Tony, you want to give us a quick recap?
Sure. You have the outline of the agreement changes to the current bargaining agreement. The amounts, I think, that are summarized at the top of it says that there, in the first year, which is this current year, there will be no wage adjustment, any adjustment to the scale that you see down before you. And in lieu of that, a payout of one-time $500 would be paid to each member of the bargaining unit. There is a wage adjustment to the scale for FY 23 of 1% and a wage adjustment on the scale of 1% in FY 24. That really sums up what's changing in this group. I can give you a number of the members. I think you also have the funding order for that next, which shows the funding by department. Right now, in that bargaining unit, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 positions. And they are administrative in nature. There's 2 position descriptions, and that would be office administrator or administrative assistant. The office administrator would be seen on that document and on that scale as a grade 10, and the administrative assistant is a grade 8. The cost of that contract, I think you have in front of you, is roughly, I think it's $8,000 in year 1.
And Tony, a majority of that 8,000 is for that one-time $500 payout, is that?
Yeah, 5,000 is, 2,900 is, and this is a piece, I think, of information I skipped over. So one thing that this whole wage scale system was created back in 2015. Okay, and so when that wage scale system was created, there was some various contract negotiations with some changes and some percent increases. And then you had some individuals that had stepped off the grid. So someone that was no longer on a step 12. And part of the review process that the system town manager has conducted is we went out and did a wage study and did a comparison to other communities. And when we did that, we said, okay, we need to make a shift in our table, right? So we need to look at our grades. So one of the things as it referenced up above, excuse me, not our grades, our steps. What we did was we shifted this whole wage table, and as it states here, we shifted it three additional. We shifted the steps so that step 1, which now used to be a step 5 before. So what we did was we said we need to make sure that the wages that we can offer and attract talent with are consistent with the marketplace. That's what the wage study was intended to do. And therefore the grid shifted. So in putting individuals back on the grid and getting everyone on an exact step, there was some modifications totaling $2,900 to some of the individuals who had reached their highest step. So when they reached their higher step, they weren't eligible for certain increases. They were handled differently than those that were on the grid. So in order to reconcile this all together, we placed them on the next higher step. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people. Some had an adjustment of $7. Some had an adjustment of $319. Some had an adjustment of like $600, but it was all to get everyone back on this wage matrix, we refer to it as. So now our system is set, and we believe it's set for the next 3 to 5 years based on the new information that we incorporated into this from our study. So I wanted to at least give you the backdrop that the actual steps were shifted in order to match up to what the marketplace was bearing. So you, for example, in 22, someone as an administrative assistant would max out at $67,000 roughly, right? And someone that was actually an office administrator ran in the office and all the related processes for that office would max out at 82. And we feel that this wage scale now represents our ability to pay our employees fairly and to attract talent when positions are vacated. Hopefully that covers it. Any questions? Again, the total cost is $8,000.
Right, thank you, thank you for that, Tony. I mean, you kind of summed up years of work in, about 2 minutes of talking there. The fact that, all the employees I can speak to when I first started, and I think you can too, MJ, that wages and salaries in this town were chaos. We had no visibility into the future because there was so much chaos. And this does represent years of work, getting all the town employees onto a grid, a matrix system that makes sense and allows us to forecast out into the future with more certainty. One thing I will say, look at the contract, the fact that, with inflation going up the way it is and everything else, the COLA is at 1%. I mean, wow, we're looking at what, 3%, 4% coming up here.
I do have a question on that in relationship to that, if you don't mind,
go
through the
ahead, Julie.
chair.
Yeah.
When you talk about a 1% raise and comparable to the market, how does the benefit side? I mean, that's strictly salary, but I mean, what about other benefits like insurance and things like that? Are those still in the ballpark as like for total
So, yeah.
compensation?
So what we do when we sit down with any bargaining unit, we do a fully loaded cost to contract projection, which includes health insurance costs, projected increases in health insurance costs, and we work to stay within our guidelines. And our guidelines traditionally are, we want to stay less than or around 3.5%, right? Overall. So what can happen is we can have a good year in our increase for health insurance. Last year, it was only 2.25%. And some individuals don't take health insurance. Some individuals have family plans, some individuals. So we look at from year to year, can we afford this contract? And so we went through this with this bargaining unit, the police and the USW that you're going to see before you. So yes, we take that into consideration. We're always considering overall sustainability of the contract.
Thank you. And when they don't take the insurance, is there any kind of payout for that or anything? Say if
Not
they're
any longer, no.
And if someone used to have it, are they grandfathered?
Yeah,
with that,
the USW and some employees that were under the old agreement, I think there might be a handful. They still are offered that as long as they're with the town, but new employees that come on board under the USW do not have that as a benefit.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nate, I did want to say something just quickly and
Yes,
sort of
Deputy.
frame it as a question to Tony. With the negotiations, with the way this is structured for the increases over the next couple of years, I don't know, have you guys had an idea of who may be coming up for retirement in the next couple of years or so? Do we know any idea yet of, because I know some folks are probably going to start aging out to the point where they may retire. Do you feel, and does the town manager feel that this makes us at least competitive in the region? Because right now, I know in my field as an assistant tax collector, we may be facing a very large deficit of treasurer collectors. A lot of them could be retiring this year, especially if certain piece of legislation goes. So I guess from me to you as a fellow municipal employee and policy wonk, do you feel this positions us competitively to try to pick up on those possible vacuums and positions that we may face coming in the next few years?
There's three pieces. Yeah, the answer is yes, short answer. There's three pieces to what we talk about, Michael and I and Kimberly, all the time is how do we compete in the marketplace for attracting talent? Okay. How do we create based on wage, but how do we create an attractive place to work? And we have been very successful in both counts. And a matter of fact, we have had outside of this bargaining unit, but I can speak to it, individuals, we have been able to get police officers, we've been able to get firefighters from other municipalities because they like how we do business here in Bridgewater. They like the culture that we want to create a safe, we want to take a healthy, a collaborative process. We have high standards and expectations about work performance. We run it very much like a business, and performance matters, whether you're in a bargaining unit or not. The other piece is regarding retirees. Yes, we have created and we reviewed actually today, Kimberly and I, what are retirements we see coming up over the next 3 to 5 years. And we're also thinking in terms of succession planning. And that can be developing internal candidates for future roles. And that can be being prepared to go to the marketplace and attract talent. So it is a full, comprehensive, holistic view of our compensation system, because we know that if you have good employees, you can deliver results. If you don't, you can't. So that's our mindset.
Thank you, Tony. That's what I was hoping to hear, because honestly, I've been wanting to see this even when I was a town employee here. That's something I've been wanting to see for years. And seeing the town finally be on a footing where we can at least be proactive rather than reactive. This is something I'm very glad I'm seeing it happen now. So I would say, Nate, when we do come to a vote, I'm definitely supporting this.
All right, great. Two great questions, and I echo MJ. It's nice that we can be proactive nowadays. It hasn't always been that way, that's for sure. All right, anybody else?
Yeah, hey, Tony, I'm curious, and this is just more for education. How many employees are in collective bargaining agreements versus not? What does that look like? And, are department heads? They're not, right? I'm trying to understand the
Yeah.
delineation.
Sure. So what we have come to is, because we're a very collaborative work environment, especially in the finance area, my assistants and or the accounting manager and the business unit analysts are constantly involved in helping compile these analysis work. So in de facto, they're part of the negotiation team. So we consider them to be a group that needs to be outside of the bargaining unit, because it's really, they have to have access to confidential and bargaining information. All right, so there is a pool of those. But as a majority rule, there's no one in the police department or administrative that isn't in a bargaining unit. There's no one in the fire department and its administration that isn't in the bargaining unit. Same thing for water, same thing for sewer, same thing for highway. The only positions now that are outside that, as you asked, that are not in a collective bargaining is your DPW director and our engineer. Those two positions are not. In the town manager's office, the town manager and the assistant town manager are considered outside. The town council executive secretary is considered outside. I'm considered outside, and Laurie's considered outside, the accounting manager, and there are two other individuals in the accounting group that are considered outside. The assessor's office, all inside. The treasurer collector's office, all inside. So I want to say there's probably 15 people total that are outside the bargaining units out of 160 some odd people.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
So what would you see interesting about that? I'm curious.
Just because I just wasn't sure. I've never actually really asked about that, and in terms of how many employees across towns. I'm sure this is not unique either, but I just hadn't really asked before. That's all.
Okay, and I just want you to know too that we'll be coming, once these are all settled, these contracts will be coming to you, before you, for those non-union positions, and still be presenting the information exactly how it's being presented now, so that we will be completely transparent and any other increases that occur.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Too, my wife's a federal employee, and as an inspector general, now she's management, she has never been part of the collective bargaining units. And essentially anybody that's management is outside of that collective bargaining unit.
Mhm.
All right, anybody else? No more questions, comments? Do we have a
Make a
motion?
motion to
Motion.
approve, Chris.
Okay, thank you,
Second.
Chris. Second, Julie, right?
Or MJ.
Or
Either
Emily.
one. Sorry.
Hey, take a pick,
That's
Josh.
fine.
Josh, roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Kathy.
Hi.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on to the next item of business, which is hand in hand with this one, FY 22-0 027. Tony, do we need an explanation? Do we want to go right into questions, comments?
Yeah, you can go right into questions, comments. Make sure I got the right order you're on right now. What order that is? again?
It's BAA collective contract appropriation transfer.
Oh, no, I think I've given you everything you need.
Okay.
Unless you have any further questions.
Just to confirm, Tony, because we approved the first order, this one goes hand in hand with it. So when we approve the first one, we, by virtue of that, have to approve this one, correct?
Well, yeah, you're saying you agree with all the numbers and this is good and this allows us to actually make the appropriations so that we can pay them.
Excellent. Mr. Chair, I would be supportive of a motion.
All right, do we have any other questions, comments, or second?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Josh, we could have a roll call, please?
Nate,
Aye.
Julie. Julie,
Aye. Aye,
you.
sorry,
Leah,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Kathy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the next order of business. It looks like we got a couple of hand in hand again here. See FY 22-028, the USW collective bargaining contract ratification. Tony,
What you see before you is a different summary, again, dealing with different bargaining units. They will draft the document for our signature. It's a 3-year agreement. It's on the same timetable as the BAA. In order to make grades 8 and 10 aligned with, and this is item 3 under the following changes. You know, item 1 was 3-year agreement. Item 2 has to do with callback hours for our inspectional services department, which adds an additional hour when they get a callback. That's in line with other units that have a callback provision. This gets that in line with them. The next item, number 3, was to align the matrix that we have to ensure that the employees were being compensated in line with the matrix of the BAA, because in prior years, the BAA got some larger collective wage adjustments, COLA, if you will. And so they bargain in that, hey, look, at these individuals are really doing the same work, but in a different union. And we can talk about why we have multiple unions if you want to. I wish we only had one as it related to our administrative staff, but we do. And so, in fact, this was to get those individuals in those positions in line. There are, I believe, 4 individuals that were impacted, and I can verify that in a moment when I pull up another document. There's also that the $500 is that one-time payout in year 1, which is this FY21 2. FY22, there's a 0% COLA, and 23 1%, 24 1%. There was also a change to their matrix that looks exactly like the one you just saw for BAA. I just don't have it. I don't know that you were given a copy of that in your packet. So that is the summary of that information. Let me pull up some exact numbers as it relates to the number of people that were in that grade 8 and 10, so I can be precise. Okay, so those that were in 10, there are none in 8 And there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I take that back, there's more than 4. There were 7 in grade 10 that would receive an additional step. The cost in year 1 of that contract that I have, your number is going to be slightly off. I think we're off just from some rounding and some work that Laurie put together. Roughly 18,000, excuse me, that's wrong. Roughly, and you'll see that on the next order, $45,000, $46,000 in year 1. See if I can show you this. If you want me to show you the salary table, I'd be willing to share that, but again, it is articulated as you saw in the BAA document. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Tony. Tony, and did I hear you say too that this will bring some of the final employees that aren't on the grid? We're catching up with them, is that correct?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
similar to what we did with the BAA by shifting the grid and aligning it with marketplace. We
Okay.
did the exact same thing.
Thank you,
So the answer is yes.
thank you.
Mr. Chair, I had a quick question.
Sure, MJ.
Tony, relating to the COLA adjustment, does that bring it on par with the BAA contract being similar with their COLA
Very-
adjustments?
Yeah, our agreements, because we're going to allow for 2 steps for those in grade 10,
Mhm.
that gives those individuals or puts those individuals in line with the BAA. The answer is yes,
Okay, so it keeps consistent. Excellent. Okay.
yes.
Thank you, MJ, good question. Anybody else? All right, not hearing anybody else. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ. Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you, Susie. Josh, if we could do a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Susie,
aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig. Rig.
Aye.
Oh, there we go. Kathy,
Aye.
thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on to the next order of business is FY 22-029, the USW collective bargaining contract appropriation transfer. So obviously, we just discussed this. This is to pay for what we discussed. Does anybody have any
Make
questions?
motion to
comments?
approve.
All right, thank-
Second,
Second?
Okay, thank you, thank you. Josh?
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Kathy,
aye.
thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right, moving on, our next order of business is FY 22-030 capital plan order. Tony, if you could,
Okay, the clock, that's the next one, not the police. Okay.
no, not what I have it, sorry.
Yep, okay. So, I'll give you a brief summary of each item that's being requested. For those who weren't on the committee last January, February-ish, and you should be able to get this from Josh. If you need, there's a process that we go through of developing a 5-year capital plan. And so we put that forward to council and to the finance committee as a document that didn't ask for an appropriation, but laid out what the demands would be for capital for the next 5 years. The first year of that plan, we then looked at in the, I believe it was the May timeframe, and said, what do we have available for funds to appropriate? And we're going to submit, and we identified that. And then we said, of those items on that plan that were scheduled to try to get accomplished in FY 21 into 22, we put through an order that was approved by this group and approved by council for approximately $1.2 million. Okay, so that went through, but that was a subset of the capital improvement program, a subset of what we expected to spend at the end of 21 and into 22. What you have before you here is again a subset, although modified somewhat because things changed from last May to this November, of our capital improvement program. And so these fundings, as we had said back in May to the school and to all our town departments, is once the free cash was certified and we're able to make a transfer in the capital stabilization fund, right? We would then prepare ourselves and prepare an order to fund those remaining items we wanted to accomplish in FY 22. So you will get another capital improvement program document that will go 5 years around January, February of this year. That won't be funded until the fall of calendar year 22, FY 23. And that will be the cycle that we will be on. Once the free cash is certified, we will then be able to take action on funding those items in the capital improvement program. And that's the cycle that we've agreed to. We've agreed to that cycle with the school and the council and the town manager. So that's going to be our cycle going forward. So I wanted to at least give you that before I started to go into any explanation. Does that make sense to those who were part of this group back in January, February of last year? And does anyone have any questions about what I just referred to?
Does make sense, Tony, referring to past events. How much is in the capital stabilization fund?
Right now,
Yeah,
I will tell you. Wrong stabilization fund. $3.6 million, and we anticipate a transfer going in there for about 238,000 from the state prison mitigation money that we get. Recently, we've been getting it annually. There were times where we skipped. So there'll be another two, so there'll end up being 3.8 million. We're looking to spend today 2.7. So that should leave $1 million in there.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Michelle Rhoda, are you with me?
I am.
Did you send me that revised document?
No, you said just save it there. It's
Oh, what did
saved
you
on the
say?
G drive.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You did tell me that.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
And that's the general fund improvement program to a fall FY 22 11-9 appropriation.
FY 22 capital plan order.
Oh, thank you so much.
Mhm.
So glad you're here. Okay. So let me get that in front of me and we will begin the discussion. Okay. So on the technology side, one of the technology items that we want to address is the purchase of a People GIS hosting service for the town GIS maps. And it's going to be published on our town website. For us to have our own GIS maps allows us to add layers of information that we can use, that the residents can use. so that we can track and maintain an inventory and or information related to infrastructure. I'll give you a simple example is where are all our hydrants, right? And how are they indicated on a GIS map? It also allows us, and that would be considered a layer. So we might have an infrastructure layer. We might have that relates to water, sewer, signs. So it gives us a visual view of all those key items in the town that we want to track and manage in a visual fashion. And this will be our own GIS software so that we can do that on our own. And we can create certain maps of certain sections of the town when we're talking about development, when we're looking at zoning, when we're looking at, it is that Google Earth, but with Bridgewater information, if you will. And the cost of that would be $19,500. On the technology side, we are also replacing. There are 4 remaining vehicles in our police fleet that need to upgrade their laptops. These are Toughbook laptops. This allows the officers to access the information that they need to be accessing, checking someone's license, looking up mugshot information, crime scene photo information. Is all that technology that is in the cruiser, and the cost of 4 Toughbook type, and I don't know if you're familiar with that term, those laptops are built in a manner that they can exist in a vehicle and they can withstand impact greater than your own laptop at home. And that for those 4 is $20,000. You as a committee have approved, and the next item, you approved the memorial building and the additional work that's being done. And you can see now that the memorial building the work is underway, which is exciting. This particular appropriation is for all the technology that's going to be required in order to fit and make that building operational for our DPW staff. And in fact, this allows for the IT department to put in any of the technology that's required to outfit the DPW, and any additional drafting software that they need, drafting tables that they need, all the things that a DPW and an engineering office would need in order to get up and running. And that's $75,000. What we also put in the technology areas, because what we've found and what I've found, and this is a truth that I know working and or knowing other individuals and other communities, we are making sure that we maximize and utilize all the different modules of the software that we purchase. And in order to do that, we know that implementing that requires to have the resources available to bring in the experts that are necessary to do the implementation work, the training work, and any other augmented resource that we need in order to do testing, training, and all the things that take an idea of implementation and make it integration so that it becomes part of what you do every single day. So we will typically put away money in order to implement various applications. There is a typo here, so I want to be clear on that. It says TCM, which is Tyler Content Management. All right, HR and PO. The HR doesn't belong there, and the TCM does. PO does. Purchase order system. We still haven't implemented a purchase order system. Tyler Content Management full implementation allows us to go paperless. All documents now are going to be attached to our general ledger related documents. We already began the implementation of that, so any invoice related to a payment is no longer in a draw. It's attached to the record out there in our accounts payable system and out there in our general ledger system. So we're going to be fully paperless. We're going to attach the orders that we're talking about tonight when they're voted in the affirmative to the budget document that we set up. So when someone's referencing and goes, what was that order for? We go to the actual certification. So we're really going to go paperless. Couple other things that we'll be doing. We're going to be doing a full upgrade with Munis. It's a new release, and they no longer are going to be supporting the release that we're on. And that implementation alone is going to be quite extensive. We've already started some work on that using an outside consultant. We don't want to miss a beat. We're talking our payroll system, our general ledger system, our tax system, our collection system. So clearly we can't mess around with that. We're putting aside $75,000 for those types of things. The next thing is a video system for the common. I can simply say that we have had so many vehicles crash into the common, and then we don't know who they are because they drive away, it's late at night, they don't get, and we end up paying the bill on a lot of that. We're going to invest some money so that we have some cameras that can capture that information so that we can then begin to address. It's a once a year occurrence, if not more. So I think it's a wise investment. The town manager thinks is a wise investment. Regarding HRIS is your human resource system. What we've found is Munis is good at being a database. It's good at paying bills. It's good at collections and tax bills, issuing them. And what it's not really dynamic in is the ability to do projections for retirements. Its ability to track those individuals out on FMLA. Its ability to track those individuals that are out on workers' comp. All the daily management that needs to happen with employees, training, proper documents being signed by the employees so that we have an electronic record. All those things are going to require a system that integrates with Munis, but it's going to have to be a standalone system that really has the robustness and the current technology and the ability to apply applications as I just described. And that's going to be a significant investment. We're estimating at this time $80,000. Fire apparatus computer upgrades, as for our fire engines, we need to upgrade those. They are several years old. I have my notes here. They're at least 6 to 7 years old, and we want to upgrade those computers in our fire, not our ambulance, but just in our engines. The new precinct voting is just that. There are now 2 precincts in the town of Bridgewater. So now we have to get all the technology set up. We got to get the voting equipment set up. We got to get all the voting booths and all the things necessary to equip the voting of those 2 additional precincts. That is $17,000. We're making an initial appropriation, and we think maybe we believe the balance of the appropriation, and we're of the opinion there's support by the CPC for the balance of whatever that appropriation is. And I'm holding what that balance is because we are not finalized. The council hasn't finalized the taking action, but there's the mobile station on Summer Street that really is an abandoned property. It's a blight, and the goal is to take that and turn that into a park. And therefore, that's why you get CPC support, plus you get a beautification of that area. And the town council has really sponsored this particular action. And so this would be a portion of that cost. The 80 Spring Street paving project, Spring Street was where the old highway garage used to be. And in fact, that was torn down. This particular amount here is being put aside so that now we can start to investigate the property to make sure there's no environmental contaminants. We have to go through that process and do boring and testing in order to determine whether or not we're going to have an environmental cleanup. If the good news is we don't, then the monies that are here would then be available for use for the actual paving. We would come back to you in that time, if that was the case, in order to transfer those funds so that it would be completely transparent into another order that would say to pave. All right. I don't think $50,000 would cover it. We believe a lot of this cost here is going to be relative to that assessment of the contaminants, if there are any. Senior Center roof repairs is just that roof needs repair. If we don't begin to do repairs, we're already seeing some leakage and some really short-term patching is starting to invade. The rain is invading the building. Snow melt off is invading the building, and the building, our new building maintenance manager has recommended $20,000 to take care of that roof. Similar to the library roof, similar problems. That is well over a 20-year roof. And in fact, he has recommended and done estimates that we need $30,000 to get that roof redone. And so that recommendation is coming from building maintenance manager. The library lot repairs, I think if you drive in the library, you can start to see how well, drainage is an issue. There can be large puddling. There's damage and wear and tear and to the entranceway, and in fact the parking lot. And again, he's recommending $50,000 so that we can do the repairs and the repaving of that lot. The library carpet, if you were to go inside, the carpet is quite old. It is now ripping, it's bunching, it's a safety hazard. It's also, it's really an important building, as you guys know. I don't have to explain, where people gather and go to. And in fact, that carpet needs to be replaced. We had an original appropriation of $30,000 that is already sitting out there in the fund. But when the final numbers came in, the funds that we had already appropriated weren't enough to meet what's going to have to be done and the cost of that. And this is an additional 25. So the total cost of that particular project is going to end up around $55,000. Any questions so far? I'll give myself a breather, so if you have questions, I can answer them on these before I keep running through the list.
Nate, I have a question for,
Yeah, great.
actually, probably a couple for Tony.
Yeah.
So first off, let's go with the easier one. Purchase order system. I remember a couple of years ago, actually, I want to say about a year and a half before I left, we were working with Combis to set up something sort of what we were looking for, where it would all be provided by the state. The Combis system, for those that don't know, it's a system that allows towns and cities to procure from the state's bid lists.
So
for
if I
discount
may,
prices.
MJ, if I can interrupt, those are apples and oranges.
Mhm.
This is in fact a system within our accounting software. So when someone wants to purchase something, they put in an order in our system, so that here's what we do. We don't know what's going to be expended until someone pays the bill. What we should know is when someone makes a commitment to order something, they should put in a purchase order so it encumbers those funds. and it shows that we don't have available funds to spend. It's an accounting mechanism that gives you a better insight as to where you're standing with your expenditures or obligations that you have made. Most cities and towns have this as part of it, and it allows, for instance, let's say we're going to spend $12,000 for electricity, and we estimated it. We could set up a blanket order that then allocates that entire budget for the whole year. So we know we can't even look at that as available funds. It in fact gets allocated as an encumbrance by a purchase order in the system. But it has nothing to do with dealing with the vendors. It has to do with accounting and financing and forecasting and budget analysis work.
Okay. And my second question was a little bit further down on the list. Taking a mobile station, 46 Summer Street. Forgive me if I'm hazy on it. I know the town had problems trying to get a hold of the property owner over the last couple of decades. The guy basically threw the mobile gas station was there out. We could never get a hold of him to find out if he was going to do something. It ended up on our list of blighted properties. Has it gone to the point where the property is now in tax title taking? Is that what this is going to happen? Or is this a different, this is going to be a different avenue by which we take the property and then convert it into the park that you said will be used with CPC funds?
It's an eminent domain taking.
Okay.
Which the council has the right, and this is what that is. And in fact, we do know who the owner is. And again, this is an action being initiated by town council.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
And that's just an anticipation of it may happening, Tony, right? I mean, obviously, if it doesn't, then that money gets returned to our stabilization fund, correct?
That money will absolutely be returned, for sure. But you need some money in the bank in order to then move forward. And once we finalize what we believe the value is on that property, then we would be putting another order through for CPC. When that came through, now we're getting real close to serious business of taking.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that puts us at what, fire station?
Yep, so $600,000 is an amount that we will need to put aside to do the preliminary design. This is necessary so that we can get a better handle on the cost of such a project. If this project was to go forward and we were to bond the debt for this project, this $600,000 would be returned to the capital stabilization fund because we can bond the design if we go forward with construction. So this allows us to have the money aside in order to do, for Michael to then, do the preliminary design, source someone to do the work, and in fact have the funds to get to that point. The two leased electric vehicles, we were going to rotate and release vehicles. We were going to rotate our electric vehicles through a leasing program. We all feel that we internally believe that technologies is still changing pretty drastically in that area. And so we were going with the plan when we first leased these three, that's what we're going to do. Due to supply chain issues, we can't find vehicles that are electric. So we opted and are opting to buy out the lease like you would on your own vehicle, and then we would own that. If such time the market changes and other vehicles become available, we will then have a trade in value if we so choose to trade them in and work back into a lease program. On the garage heaters, fire station. So these are your space heaters inside of your garages of station 1 and station 2, right? The bays. This isn't inside the building per se. It's not inside the housing area or the office area. We did make an error here. I would like the group to consider a amendment to 61 for 6150 and make it 12,300. That would be for 2 additional space heaters. The building maintenance manager and the fire chief both concur that we need 2, not 1. It seems to be an error of communication, error of omission. So I'd like you to consider amending that to 12,300 for 2, not 1. The fire alarm simulator, back in May, you appropriated the first of 5 payments on that. This is the second payment on the simulator. That allows the officers downstairs in the building to go through certain scenarios, simulation, so that they can train on how to respond and react to certain incidents and events. The police chief had an old system. That old system became antiquated and in fact no longer supported, and the company went out of business. Last May, you approved the first payment. This is the second of 5. The police chief also is asking for 1 additional vehicle. Right now, on his fleet, I did an average of some of his older vehicles, average mileage as of 2/5/21. So there were 11 vehicles that he had that had an average mileage on them of 110,000 miles. That was the average. On top of that, these vehicles will idle. And so they have more running hours than our typical vehicles because they do sit and idle. So if the average is 109, then you can look at it, the average of 109 plus idling time, they get a lot of wear and tear. Then there's another group of vehicles that he has. It's a count of 10 that in fact has average mileage of 45,000. So that's what he's faced with right now. And that was as of 2/5/21. So this is part of his rotation to bring in new vehicles and move out the old vehicles in order to maintain, the safe equipment, the run time, not out of service time, in order to patrol the streets and do the work of his staff. He's looking for an additional 75,000. There are firearms that he's asking to be replaced, and I would summarize the need for the replacement as this. The new guns that he's looking to buy replace 40 millimeters with a safer 9mm. It's a lighter weapon. It has far less recoil. And it also ensures that the suspect is the only one to be hit, meaning it has a much better firing accuracy. It has a laser sight on it as well. It's a much safer item. Some of the older weapons are well over 15 years old, and it is the mindset of the police chief that when you go to replace your firearms, you should do it wholesale, meaning all firearms should be replaced at the same time so that every officer has the same weapon. And in fact, then any of the ammo that's purchased for training and practice is bought in bulk, and it's only one type of bullet. And so that, in fact, is a request from the police chief. 25,000 is being requested to replace his lasers. The laser guns technology changed. Those are well over 4 years old.
Hey, Tony,
Yeah.
sorry, quick question. The chief's proposal to replace all the firearms at once, is that industry best practice?
Yes, he would say it is best practice in his industry, police forces. That is typically their methodology.
And how long ago did you said how old were they?
I
They're
said
about
15.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The tasers are in fact a technology-driven piece of equipment. And clearly it's kind of like these need to be performed and they need to, and there's also, in any product we have now, including lasers, there's chips and there's technology that's built in. And so this would replace those, and he feels the technology has changed, and in order to provide the equipment that the police officers need, that the police chief is requesting that they be replaced. This is payment one of 5 if you were to, if this was to be appropriated. They have now agreed to add the wearing of a camera system for all the officers. That's supported by the town manager, it's supported by the police chief, and in fact, the body cams, they call it a worm camera system. As you can see, that would be one of 5 payments. Let me just pull that one up because I think the first year is a little bit more hefty than no, I stand corrected. Oh, I did want to note this. So we received the grant for $70,000 to offset the cost, and we will be financing the remainder of that cost. So the total cost is $398,000. We will be financing $65,000 a year for 5 years. All right. The next item is simply the appropriation for the next lease payment on an engine on E2. The committee has appropriated each lease payment that has been presented before you last May and the year before. So we're on lease payment 3 of 5 for engine 2. Here's I think a very important one, so that you understand that the radio communication up until now within the town, due to, and I am not an expert on this, but I'm going to explain it in the most layman terms possible. The coverage of our communication system between the west part of the town and the east part of the town, between fire and police, and between fire, police, and DPW, they were all running different systems. There wasn't one main core system that was digital. So with some of them were still in analog, some of them were moving to digital, some of the handhelds were digital, and so we were in different places. What this does is create a central communication system that deals with the coverage of the town, and the police chief supports. It's going to be it's under the fire department as if it's a fire department cost, but it really is in fact public safety, including our DPW. And in fact, this is a payment. The total cost of the communication system was $732,000. We fund, excuse me, 755. We funded 105 last spring so that we can begin to get the portable radios, and the remaining balance is 650, and we're going to fund that over 5 years. This is the heart of any emergency response. This system is very antiquated, and this communication is critical to the operation of all our public safety departments. The ballistic equipment for the fire department is just that. It's the equipment. If they were in a shooting, an active shooting situation, they would have the proper headgear and all the things that would be necessary to keep them safe. And that cost would cover outfitting all of or having enough sets to outfit the employees, the firefighters, excuse me, in the department. In their fleet schedule, they have a 7 to 8 year rotation on their command vehicles. So right now, a command vehicle might be sitting at 98 to 99,000 miles. That's when, repairs start to increase, major breakdowns occur, and part of our replacement schedule for their department is around 7 to 8 years. And this would in fact replace a vehicle that is approximately 7 years old and has about 100 and some odd thousand miles on it.
And
Engine,
Tony,
yes.
sorry, Tony, quick question, on the ballistics
Yeah.
gear, about
Mhm.
how old was that stuff?
They don't have it. This is
Oh, they
new.
don't have it, okay.
They never
So
had
this
it.
is new. Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you for asking. Engine 359,000. That is a major repair that's going to extend the useful life of engine 3. It's a transmission cost. And it will increase the useful life of this vehicle for an additional 7 years. And so we decided to move ahead with that repair, and it's $59,000. So the next items are school related. So one of the great things that has worked out nicely with the school department is our collaboration. Last spring, we allocated and appropriated around $400,000 for some items that were on their capital plan. We have incorporated their capital plan, and it will be in our Tyler Capital Improvement Program when you get the document this coming January. So what this is the commitment that we made to them back in May for the other items that they would need funding for. Now, a little history on this for those who are new members. In the past, they used to budget inside their operating budget, their capital. The town of Bridgewater never budgeted its capital inside its operating budget. We always used available funds and cash funds, if you will, to pay for us. That was a practice because we were really in dire straits regarding our operating budgets, and now has become a practice because we like to know what we have for our operating budgets, and therefore our free cash. That's why the resolution was so important, that we have a surplus, because we know we're going to need those monies to fund our capital plan in FY23. What I'm saying here is the school department has agreed to pull out all capital out of their operating budget. So when we're comparing increases to the school budget and the town budget, we have made it a clearer line of sight for discussion. And that means, what does it cost to operate the activities necessary to deliver the services? These capitals are outside, items are outside. So this says to us here that they want to install tennis courts, and 60% of the cost of the high school, that really should be 59.97 for the tennis courts, is going to be funded by the town of Bridgewater. I skipped over the plow because that's a district-wide plow that they use to go around to all their schools, because they do all their own plowing. They brought their plowing in-house and stopped subcontracting that because they felt they could do it at a more cost-effective way. This will replace a 4x4 plow truck and utility body. And then the other items you can see relate to their buildings. A hot water tank, they need 2 of them in the high school. And then in the Williams School, there are 2 items. They need to rebuild 2 of the 4 boilers, and they need to replace their steamer. And then there's a district-wide item they have, which is a 3D printer, and we would pay a portion of that cost. Rainham would pay the other portion. Those are all the school items.
Tony, I have a question.
Sure.
With respect to the tennis court, and I'm new to the town, so I don't know. Has the school had tennis courts before, or this is just new? And how did they come about making the decision of tennis court versus like replacing the field for football?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So how do they go through the criteria? They have a process they go through with their school committee, and they set the priorities. And then through their school committee and their facilities director, they sit down and they set those priorities and they deliver those priorities to us. As it relates to, for example, football field, they actually just redid the turf. And we contributed to that in May, and that was done over the summer. And now they have a new turf football field. Okay. They never had courts. They were using courts in some of the other middle schools. And those courts themselves have deteriorated over time. And the option is to redo the ones in the middle school, and that's where the high school used to go to play tennis, or put them at the high school because they need to be built anyway. And oh, by the way, let's do this and place these where they're being used, and that's with the high school students. So that's why it's being shifted there, and that's how they set their priorities. Does that answer your question, Rick?
Yes, thank you.
You got it. The engineer plotting plan survey. So here's the thing, what that is, we decided to create our DPW finally. It was in the charter many years ago. And last year we funded a DPW director and we funded an engineer, and we are moving there. And we're going to be moving them into the new building across the way. And this is going to allow them to get the plotter that an engineer would use, survey equipment that they would use to do survey in the roads, all the equipment that's going to be necessary, the CAD system and licenses for the CAD system, all those things that are tools necessary for that group. The next item is just a lease payment for a 5 for a prior purchased sander snowplower. Payment 4, which is a final payment for the sidewalk plow, and then a purchase of a new F-250 Super Cab. The vehicle they have, they do a great job of maintaining their vehicles, because what I said to them when I saw them, one of them pull up and said, "Oh, you're going to replace that?" I go, "Looks like a good vehicle to me." I went inside and started to look at it, and I looked at the mileage, and then he started to show me all the things that were wearing the undercarriage rot. And he said, it's time for a replacement. Similar to the number of years in the replacement schedule for the fire department, this vehicle is on a replacement schedule, and it is in fact past its useful life. And this would pay for replacing that vehicle. The total is $2,716,170.61. I'm asking you to increase that by another $61.50, and that is me boring you to death with the information relevant to the capital plan.
Tony, can I just ask one more question?
Please.
I'm sorry, I just want to go back up. With respect to the police vehicle, the one vehicle that's being replaced or consideration for being replaced.
Yep.
Is there a police vehicle buyback program, or I don't know, Town of Bridgewater buyback program for any vehicles used by either the police or I don't know.
There's 2 formal ways that they handle this. One is they would, if they didn't think it had any trade-in value, they would then designate it as surplus, and it would go to a company that handles municipal surplus property, and it would follow all the procurement laws and sale of town property laws. If it's a trade-in for a similar item, an old cruiser or a new cruiser, they would just get the trade-in value to offset the cost of the vehicle.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. I just wanted to know.
No problem. Glad to do it.
Hey, Tony, I'm going to just piggyback kind of on Rig there a little bit, replacing the firearms. Obviously, even though they're 15 years old, there's significant value to the ones that they're replacing. What would happen? Would they resell those? Would they use them as a trade-in? Or if they were resold, would they go back into the stabilization fund, to the police?
Yeah. So again, selling of surplus town property requires a certain protocol to be followed. The chief, if there was some trade-in value, he would. There can't, these are guns now, so there's legal requirements on how you dispose of or handle moving these guns to being out of service. There is a destroying process of guns that occurs. I don't know the particulars, but I would say this: if there's a way for the chief to get value for these and trade them in against, then that's how it would happen. If it was a sale and it was a legal sale under the laws that govern what he can do, those revenues would go into the general fund as a miscellaneous receipt and flow to free cash.
Okay, thank you, Tony. The answer to my question.
Can we just stay on that question, that same topic with respect to the firearms? And I'm sorry to take up anybody's time. This is just my own edification and wanting to know. With respect to the firearms, you had mentioned earlier that it's industry practice to replace them. And also
to replace them all at one time so that each officer is using the same weapon.
Oh, okay. And now has our officers, have they tested the new weapons that the chief is recommending, or is it just like word of mouth from other departments that?
Well, I knowing this chief of police, police chief and his staff and his sergeants, lieutenants, and his, in fact, deputy, it's a collective process. There's no doubt the selection and this change, they're quite aware and involved in that discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, same thing with the simulator. He had few of his guys meet with the vendor, look at the product, look at the options for the product, and help in the selection process.
Thank you.
Based on my own knowledge, the 9mm is a lighter gun. It's a lighter round than the 40. And as you already alluded to, Tony, it's a safer round. But I did just have a couple of questions. Well, one question, I guess, regarding the electric vehicle buyouts. What do we know what the expected useful life is remaining on those, and how much more time we can get out of them?
Well, we've had them for 3 years. We're hoping at least to have them for another 2 to 3 years. But you know, with batteries, the useful life might be stated in a warranty this, and we're still in that new technology range that it could be something greater or less.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Was this information sent in advance of this meeting, Tony, that was just,
Yes.
that you just ran through?
Yeah, it was in the order, it was in the whole packet.
Oh, I didn't scroll far enough. Okay, I apologize.
Oh, definitely.
So do we need to vote on that tonight? How time sensitive is that?
So what has to happen, and because this is a capital order, once it gets approved by the different subcommittees and goes to council, there has to be a hearing. So there has to be a notice. So when it comes to capital, it has even further protocols in order to get finalized. So there will be a public hearing. And so because that is an extra step in the process, if we want to get this resolved before the end of December, it does have some time. It has a time sensitive nature in some respect. Nate, you want to talk about that a little bit? You and I had a pre-meeting and we kind of talked about that logistically.
Yeah, you know, I think what we're up against too is that the town council doesn't meet later on in the month due to the holidays, correct?
Yeah, I think
we do have a time pressure, Susie. If we do want to revisit this as a committee, we would have to meet again by Monday, correct, Tony?
Well, if we wanted to make sure this was, done by 12/31. Now, are there some things here that are a little bit more time sensitive than other? Well, sure, there's a list here. Is there anything I'm aware of that is like dire if we didn't get it done to January? No. But I think if if you would talk to the school, if you talk to any of the departments, to know sooner allows for planning, procurement, and all the other things that they would then step into once this is approved. However, it's your purview.
Hey guys, sorry to jump in, but I have a hard stop at 9 because I have little kids and my other job to go back to. So if I drop, does it break the quorum?
Don't think so. One,
I would
two.
actually, I have to go too. I just feel like this is a lot to digest in one meeting and it's,
Yeah.
it's like almost $3 million that were, and like, it just seems like a lot to go through in a short period of time to just, because we're under this December time crunch.
No. Like I said, it's your purview and it's not life or death.
Yeah, that's actually exactly where I was going because, it is a lot to review. It does actually kind of like looking at it again. For instance, Rick, I'm glad you asked about the tennis courts. I've actually heard that, I don't know how long it's been since like the track has been updated. So, it's just like those kind of ancillary questions that would be kind of nice to get some more context. The ballistics gear for the fire department, I'm really, since it's brand new, actually, I'm really curious what their business case or justification was, what kind of data are they looking at? Or is it just a matter of like, we're literally the only fire department that doesn't have it, So it's things like that. I would like to understand on a couple of things.
Sorry to interrupt again. I really just have to drop. So if I could just get an answer about whether it's going to break the quorum or not.
I think that
I
you're good.
really
with
have to
one,
get to my
2,
kids.
3.
I'm
4.
leaving
Nope,
too,
we're good.
so.
All right, well,
We're
hold
still
on a
good.
sec. We're still good if we lose 2?
Yep, we're still good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thanks.
good night. Thank you for being here.
Is this, I think, I certainly agree with the sentiment and the thoughts. I had the same thoughts about the body armor for the fire department. And I'm sure, obviously I'm all about safety and making sure that, our officers, and our fire folks are safe. But is this something that we could put on, we could revisit at a later date? And what I mean by later date, I would advocate that, that we consider not Monday, as I have other priorities on Monday with another committee.
So Nate, I think your group is stating something that's very important, and I want to make sure that they don't feel pressure from me. If that group wants time to digest, ask questions, wants more information, it is $2.7 million, then that's what we should do.
No, I agree 100%. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue this. What I'm going to ask the secretary do is we'll come up with a date. It may be the 15th. We don't know. Tony, you and I can have a chat.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
But one thing that I'm going to ask the secretary to do is get a message out to the committee members to ask questions of our finance director prior to our next meeting.
And then I can come with additional information.
That's right. That's right. So I think that's how we'll handle it. So let's do
Yeah,
that.
I mean, could the secretary compile if we give all of our feedback, like, hey, would like to.
Yep.
Yep, perfect.
I think that'd be the way to do it. Yeah, make Tony's job easier too, so he doesn't get hit with 1,000 little cuts. Yep.
Yeah,
Do-
absolutely.
Okay.
Do we want to set a timeline to get to provide our questions to the secretary?
Yeah, let's we want to give you a little bit of time too, Ray. Yeah, let me talk with Tony so we can work out the timing a little bit. And then we'll turn around and we'll give you an answer to that question, Ray. Does that make sense? Does that work for you?
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
Great.
I mean, I think in fairness to everybody understanding the compressed timelines, I think we could probably at least submit questions.
Yeah.
With, by like end of week, beginning of next or something like that, right?
Yeah,
So
I would think that's we'll do it by Monday or something like that, Susie. Yeah. Yep.
okay. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
I agree. Okay. So let's,
Thank you.
we got a couple other items. Why don't we just get those done? And we will have accomplished a lot tonight because it has been a lot. Okay, so our next order, so we're going to continue 030 capital plan order. The next order is FY 22-031, rescind Kerr Street loan order. Tony, if you could just give us a quick.
Yeah, good news there is that we thought the project was going to cost us $979,000 when the actual construction bid came in, it was significantly less. And so significantly less that once we got the grant, which we ended up getting a grant of $225,000, we chose not to bond it, and we had another appropriation that we made through this group to fund the difference, so that the project could have been funded with available funds. It was about $525,000 was the total cost versus $979,000. So what this is a housekeeping order that allows us, from an accounting standpoint, to say the town no longer has an obligation or potential obligation out there under this loan authorization. So you're going to vote, and your vote will then remove this from our list of loan authorizations and make our housekeeping get things in order.
Oh, that's an easy one, Tony. So
Oh.
I'm gonna say, let's make a motion to rescind the Kerr Street loan order.
Um,
Second.
Sorry, but Nate actually dropped, so we just need to give him a second.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
I know how that
I
feels
was actually
though,
going to
so.
say, since the chair unfortunately left, who does the position devolve to? Because Eric's not, he's the vice chair, so we want to make sure, continuity of committee is sort of a thing, especially under Robert's rules.
There he is. He's back.
Wait,
Sorry,
so I apologize. Can I understand if we do, obviously I'm not opposed, but if we do rescind that, what happens?
Okay, so here's how loans go. When you vote to authorize a borrowing, it gets put on your balance sheet and you report to the DOR that says the town has approved an authorization to borrow. It actually reduces what the town can borrow because there's some constraints on what a municipality can borrow. And so right now that's sitting as a reduction to what the town can borrow, and it sits out there until it's rescinded. And once you rescind it, it's no longer an obligation of the town.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
It puts it back in play if we need it in the future, I think. Is that
Yeah, well, not this money, this whole thing
Right.
dissolves, but available
Correct.
funds for.
available
appropriations
funds,
to borrow.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We've been talking for so long that my battery actually died on my laptop.
And my dad on my phone's gonna go out. My husband's gonna, you guys,
I
if I,
keep my laptop still plugged into the wall. My battery died a long time ago and it doesn't charge, so I keep it plugged in all the time. Might have to take that up, Nate.
Jeez.
Well, it gave me time to ask a question, but somebody was about to say motion to approve, so.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
second it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Josh, roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, great. We have one final new business tonight, everyone. It's FY 22-032, the Bridgewater Police Association contract ratification. Tony.
All right, this was a long and productive negotiation. There says that there will be a 1.75% increase in the employee's base hourly wage, 2% in year one, 2% in year two, 2% in year three. And there will be a change in detail rates to $58.60 if it relates to alcohol. And there will be one additional personal day from 3 to 4. That aligns with the fire department's benefit. The other is more internal to how the resources are deployed. There's something in relationship to the K-9 officer, but again, that's all has to do with administrative and managerial options. Again, amendment, shift bidding, administrative options. And the financial aspects, and then the $3,500 for each officer to be paid out of opera funds due to their what's they're considered to be frontline employees that worked during the pandemic, and as a result, the guidelines allow us to provide compensation, and this is the agreed upon compensation per officer in year one. The cost of the contract, if ratified in year one with that increase as I described, is roughly right now. Our actual calculation would come back on a separate order, but it's safe to say $92,000 in year one. That is a brief summary of this agreement. Question?
Tony, just for clarification, the detail rates, that's not what's being charged to the town. That's just what they will charge to utilities or to an establishment in town here.
That is correct.
Okay.
And that's in line with other communities.
How about anybody else? We have any questions or comments for Tony?
I'm sorry. I'm not. I don't think I quite understood this. So this is for detailing purposes for any events that are happening in town that our officers, as part of their contract, would be getting whatever is under the agreement of that contract. Am I understanding that correctly?
So what this says is when a National Grid needs a detail, or when a construction company needs a detailed officer on the road, this is the rate that that company would pay the town in order to pay the detail officer. And that would be officers that may be employees of the town and maybe officers that are coming from another town. But it's really a pass-through cost between the construction company, Comcast, National Grid, that pays the police officers for their details.
So we're not
Understood.
losing or making money, we're just the middleman?
That's all we are. We do that. We do get a 10% administration fee. We
Understood.
being
Thank
the
you.
general fund. The general fund does.
Thank you.
How about the detail rate for alcohol? Is that when like a local establishment requests a detail or something for an
Yes,
event?
if-
Okay,
That's right. If you're inside a bar or a restaurant or a function room, there's a slight difference.
thank you.
So we got to vote on it, right?
Yeah, so do we have any other questions or comments for Tony on the contract ratification?
I'd
Make
like
a
to
motion to approve.
Yep, we've got a tie there.
Second,
Chris,
Chris?
do you want or should I take it?
I'll second.
Okay, Josh, we have a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you.
And-
Oops.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I
Yeah.
think we might have skipped order 24. FY 22-24 acceptance of wild and scenic Taunton River.
No,
We
we're-
had
I was gonna say
pushed
that.
we're continuing that with the resolution, Josh.
Oh, okay, yep, sorry, I missed that then. Did somebody motion to continue that one?
I don't
I
know. Do
was
we
gonna,
have?
I was gonna ask that question earlier and then I forgot. Thank you.
Yeah, do
I'll
we
make
have?
the motion to continue it.
Okay,
Second.
awesome.
Okay, do we have a? Okay, Josh, please roll call.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, do we just do the resolution or do we do the order there?
That was just for the order, but I think we already continued the resolution.
Okay, we
Yes.
did.
Yep.
Okay. All right, great. So, one, just real quick before we wrap up, first of all, thank you to everybody. This has been a long meeting tonight. We went over a lot of stuff, a lot of great questions from the committee. I do appreciate everybody's time. I would ask that if you have any questions, whether it has to do with the capital plan or anything else, that you direct all your questions through our committee secretary and CC myself also. It's important that we do that. Josh really is sort of our public record keeper for the committee. Barring that, that's all the comments I have for now. I will be reaching out to the committee as far as further discussion on the capital plan is concerned. So barring that, do we have a?
Motion to
The
adjourn?
next meeting, when's,
I think our next regular scheduled meeting would be the 15th, Julie.
thank you.
All right, we may have to do it before then, but we'll see. Okay, MJ, you were gonna say something important?
I was gonna motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Josh.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Wait, can I say
Thank
one?
you.
thing? What
Time,
about
Tony.
that public comment thing? Do we have to put,
Well, that will be when we continue that stuff, Julie. So,
okay, I must have missed that. Okay,
yeah, since we continue those two, that public comment was tied in with.
related to that. Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Take care.
Bye,
Thank you,
thanks.
Tony.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Tony.
Bye. Thanks, Tony. Bye.
You got it.